Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the November edition of the Ask Mary and Pat show. a production of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, Healthy Kids, Mississippi. And we are so happy to be with you tonight. We hope that everyone had just an absolutely fabulous um, holiday. We hope that everyone enjoyed themselves and that in the interest of health, I hope that we ate really well on Thursday and that we got ourselves back right on today. I guess we ate really well Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and probably we got back right today. But again, just thankful for another opportunity to share with you here under the auspices of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation. All right, this month's Ask Mary and Pat Medicaid and CHIP show is going to be similar to last month. We're going to do some question and answer. And these two ladies are our subject matter experts in the area of Medicaid and CHIP. Both are retired Medicaid specialists from the Mississippi Division of Medicaid, one of the locations in the North Mississippi area, and they can share a little bit more about that with you in terms of their history. But they retired from that, and in their semi-retirement, they became Medicaid application assisters for Healthy Kids Mississippi, which is the arm of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation that assists families with Medicaid and CHIP enrollment, Medicaid and CHIP renewal, and we act as a go-between between the families who are applying for these benefits and the Medicaid office. And we don't process the applications, but we help to facilitate the process of getting them in the system, getting them to Medicaid. So both of these ladies, we welcome you both. We're so glad to have you here tonight. We also want to acknowledge our executive director, Dr. Michael Miner, our board chair, Ms. Jennifer Garrett, and with us behind the scenes is Mr. Thomas Robinson, our technology and metrics director. And he is assisting us a little bit with the chat. He'll be monitoring the questions and answers that come in through Facebook. And of course, he's making sure that we keep everything rolling technologically with this broadcast. All right, in addition to our Zoom cast tonight, we are restreaming this webinar on our Oak Hill Regional CDC Healthy Kids Mississippi Facebook page. So we ask those who are viewing us via social media to please share on your pages so that this information will get to the folks who need it the most. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We know that Medicaid and CHIP does not have an open enrollment like Medicare for seniors or even like marketplace coverage. So this information that is going to be shared tonight is applicable year round. And so our subject matter experts, Miss Pat Boga and Miss Mary Finner. Welcome, ladies. So glad to have you both. So let's go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening. Share just for about a minute or so about your background, each of you, how we came to this place of collaborating to help families get coverage. We'll start with Sister Boga, with Miss Boga.
I would like to say good evening, and I am a retired Medicaid specialist with the Division of Medicaid, and of course, with so many years of 25 years of service with the state of Mississippi, you know, we've learned that our task is basically helping people. And this is something that I came to love as far as being beneficial to the citizens of Marshall County, well, other counties, several other counties. I can't just say Marshall County, several other counties. But anyway, Sister Finner, Mrs. Mary Finner and I worked together at the Division of Medicaid, and she had informed me of what she was doing, and I said, oh, that sounds very interesting. You know, I would love to be a part of that as well. to be able to help people. And so months after that, I got a call, and here I am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us and for being a part of our team and for having the families of Mississippi in your heart. So we know that working for the Division of Medicaid wasn't just a job, there was more to it.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We're going to go over to Ms. Fenner. Share with us a little bit, Ms. Fenner.
Good evening, everyone. I also am retired from Department of Mississippi Medicaid, and I worked there for 10 years, and I enjoy helping people. Period. You know, it's a ministry for me. So when the opportunity came for me to be able to work with healthy kids, I jumped right on it, and I appreciate Oak Hill and the miners for allowing me to be able to do this. It's really a joy to be able to help people get what they need, period, whether it be Medicaid or the ACA program. It's a joy in doing that.
Yes.
Wonderful. It is a joy. It is very fulfilling to be able to see families get coverage. We know that in the state of Mississippi, there are so many people who for years have lacked insurance. So us having the opportunity to do this, yes, as ministry, is definitely a ministry. You have to have a heart for people. So us having an opportunity to do this is such a blessing. And then being able to come on social media and answer questions, sometimes questions that people don't realize they have until after it's verbalized. And they say, oh, I always wondered about that. And hopefully, prayerfully, we will say something that will help somebody who may be in need of coverage. We don't ever want to wait until we get sick or a child gets sick to go seeking healthcare coverage, because that's not the time. Insurance, whether it's Medicaid CHIP or even marketplace insurance or any other kind, we want to have it when we're well and have some that we have in our back pocket. So when the sickness does come, and it will, particularly with children, God forbid a child is stricken with something like COVID, but there are so many other things that happen to children in their growing up years, and medical costs are astronomical for both children and adults. So let's talk a little bit, ladies, about the process of applying for Medicaid and CHIP. And I'm going to change my screens around just a little bit for a moment. If I can. Oh my. Let me go back to where I was. All righty. I want you ladies to be in the forefront. I want folks to see you because y'all are the subject matter experts. All right. So let's talk about the application process. Does applying with a Medicaid assister through Healthy Kids Mississippi hold up the application process? How does that affect? We know that the Medicaid office has 30 days, but how does it affect that whole process? Either one of you may answer that.
Well, it actually doesn't hold up the process. It actually speeds up the process, because if you do the application with the Medicaid assister, we complete everything and submit it. It goes directly to the Medicaid office. And so all you have to do is wait a few days, be on the lookout for your letter. And you're already prepared. You know that if you're working or whatever income you have, you already have time. You've completed that application with your sister. So all you have to do is just go ahead and get that ready. You can drop it off. You can mail it in. You already know what you have to do. So it actually speeds up the process.
Wonderful, wonderful. So having someone to help with an application like this sounds like a plus.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the length of the application. I've heard people say that it's 20 some odd pages. What is all of that?
It's a lot. Sister Fenner, I'm gonna let you uh, go with that one because basically, you know, well,
It's not really 20 pages. It depends on your household size. And so if it's just you and one child, then the actual application would only be maybe 3 or 4 pages at the most. So it depends on how many people are in the household.
So
there's
what
a
you
lot
think?
of questions on the application, you know, but it's kind of easy. You really don't, if the assister or the worker is familiar with it, you really don't have to go through all the steps, you know.
So am I right, or am I understanding correctly that there may be XYZ number of pages to accommodate a large family? Where it's really not, if your family's not that big, you're not going to fill out every one of those pages because it's the same questions for each person on the application. Is that right?
That's true. There's a repeat of the same questions.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so it's redundant in that, and it's only
Yes.
necessary based on the household. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a world of sense. All right, let's move on and talk about if both parents of children live in the same household, but they are not married. Let's say that the mother is working and the father is unemployed with no income. Can the father qualify for approval and the mother be denied because her income goes over the limit? So one parent get approved and the other get denied. Is that possible?
Yes, that's possible because the income, because they're not married, but the mother's income counts for herself and the child. The father's income, because he doesn't have any, does not. He doesn't have an income. So that's how he's more eligible. He is eligible to receive Medicaid as a parent with the child.
Wow.
But it's still a household of 3,
Yes.
but the income is divided up in a sense. But it's a household of 3. Just the mother's income counts for herself and the child. And the father, since he doesn't have an income, doesn't count. He doesn't have anything to count. So it's just him and the child.
So similar situation, let's change it around and say it's a mother and a father in a house, unmarried.
Right.
The father is the income, the one with the income. How would that application look? Would it be all 3 on there? Or would it be just the mother and the child? How would that work?
All 3 would be on it, but that father will be denied because of his income. If his income goes above the income scale, he will be denied.
But he would still need to be on there as the only income in the house. He would still need to be included as a member of the household.
Yes, he's in the household.
Okay.
Right. Because his income would still count for the child, but it won't count for the mother.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
Now, of course, if they were married, it'd be totally different.
Totally different situation.
Elaborate on how it's different if they're married.
If they're married, then the income counts for both.
Right.
Right.
Parents.
Both parents, it would count for both parents. And more than likely, neither one of them probably would be eligible for Medicaid, but the child may still be eligible.
Right.
Okay. That's if they're married, only one of them works. If they're married and both of them works.
Same case. If they're married and one of them work, it's still the same thing. The husband would not be eligible because then her income will count for him as well. And so it would probably put him over the income limit, but the child may still be eligible.
Right.
So it would behoove people, if they think they want to apply, go ahead and apply.
Yes.
Be truthful, put the information down, put the income down, and see what happens, because every situation shakes out differently.
It does. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So we find people all the time that are misplacing and losing Medicaid cards, or perhaps they never received one. Talk a little bit about the process for that. Do they have to go to the Division of Medicaid office? Can they call? Can they go online? How does that happen to get the replacement? How does that process go?
They just have to make that call to the Medicaid office, and probably, well, it's best to speak with the worker.
Mm-hmm.
But what they can do as well is they can call the main office in Jackson. What's a
Right.
800 number that they have, and they can request a Medicaid card through that. That's how they actually going to have to do. They actually going to have to make the call themselves.
Yes.
So does not having a card prevent someone from seeing a physician? Let's say they've misplaced their card or their child's card and they want to see the doctor. Is that going to keep them from seeing the doctor or getting their prescriptions?
No, because whoever the provider is, they can actually call the Medicaid office,
Right,
and verify the numbers.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, well that is refreshing to know. Particularly in this pandemic situation, we hear a lot about change of address. Unfortunately, a whole lot of people have been displaced because of the economic hardships early in the pandemic. Things seem to be better now, but early on, a whole lot of change of addresses should have been processed, but they weren't because people were just trying to live life and dealing with the pandemic. So when a situation does arise where a change of address is necessary, how do you submit that to Medicaid?
again, they have to make that call.
So it sounds like staying in touch with their caseworker,
Yes.
or if they don't know, maybe they don't know who to call, even calling us, 662-298-3584, to kind of walk them through the steps of, this is the phone number for the main office, this is what you're going to ask for, that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay. Here is something that we hear all the time, because so many people get Medicare and Medicaid mixed up. Sometimes people confuse the Medicaid and CHIP that a child may receive with the Medicaid that a disabled person may receive. So one question was posed. It said, can I still apply for Medicaid if I do not have a disability or any minor children?
Not in the state of Mississippi. You would not be eligible. They do not have a program for individuals between the ages of 19 and 64. So if you don't have a disability, you're not going to be eligible for Medicaid here in the state of Mississippi.
Right.
Okay. With the exception of those people that are 65 and they are eligible for Medicaid along with Medicaid.
Right. Once they become 65, then they can apply for Medicaid.
Okay. So Mississippi did not expand Medicaid, is what you're saying.
No.
But there are some states where a person who is under the age of 65 can apply for Medicaid and possibly receive it. Is that right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Here's another question that came in from the audience. It says, I just had a miscarriage and I was not on Medicaid. Can I apply now and get coverage for that pregnancy period if I meet the income requirements? So retroactive is what I think they're trying to ask for.
Yes. You can apply. And the basic thing is, you have to know the period of which you had been going to the doctor and being admitted into the hospital during that time, the date that you had the miscarriage, they have to have that date. And if you need to go back, or as far as retro, if you need to go retroactive to 3 months, you can apply for that. But you have to mention that when you're completing that application.
So would that Medicaid cover any follow-up visits that are related to the miscarriage?
Yes, they'll be eligible for at least 2 months after.
Right.
After the miscarriage.
After the miscarriage.
Okay, very good. um, what is the process of applying for pregnancy Medicaid if the individual was not already on Medicaid, and already had a baby? Let's say they just didn't have any Medicaid coverage whatsoever, but they want to get pregnancy Medicaid for themselves, then they have a child who needs Medicaid or CHIP for themselves. That's not even counting the child that's on the way. Can you all explain that a little bit? Because that does happen. Sometimes somebody's income may have changed and they may not have needed Medicaid with that child initially, but now they do. And there's going to be a third person in the household. So there's more of a need for assistance.
Right there. It's the same application process. Even if they have had the baby, as long as they can always go back 3 months. Now, if they don't go back within that 3-month period, then the baby could be eligible, but the mom won't be able to get pregnancy Medicaid and the 2 months after the baby was born. So you have to, there are cases where people didn't think they were eligible and somebody told them to apply anyway. Once the baby was born, they applied and they actually got it up to 3 months prior to the birth of the baby.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long does pregnancy Medicaid last?
Okay,
Well,
pregnancy. Go ahead, Pat.
Oh, well, if you apply before you have the baby, now it's going to cover your whole pregnancy period. But and once you have the baby, the hospital will send that information in to the Medicaid office. And again, they'll automatically add the baby. And then the mother will be covered up to 2 months. And then the baby won't have to be renewed for another year.
Okay. So 2 months for the parent minimum. And then and then it's no longer pregnancy Medicaid, it's just Medicaid. Is that right?
Well, they're still calling it part of the pregnancy, postpartum. It's called postpartum Medicaid.
Okay.
And it ends after that if she just applied for pregnancy Medicaid in the beginning.
Right.
Okay.
Now she's
eligible. So there's a different application.
Right. If she's eligible after the 2 months, then she can apply for Medicaid for herself. So,
If she
depends on the income.
Yes.
I see.
She has to cooperate with child support.
Oh yeah, child support as well.
So here's the hotbed of questions here about child support. Can I still apply for Medicaid if I cooperate with child support for one child and do not cooperate with with child support for the other one in the household?
Well, she has to cooperate with both. If she fails to not cooperate with one, she'll still get denied. You have to cooperate with both fathers, both child's parents, both children's parents.
So when she said cooperate with child support, what does that mean exactly in terms of looking at a Medicaid application?
She has to agree to assist the child support office with locating that parent, given all the information that she knows about that parent in order for them to pursue child support from the parent.
Right.
So can a child receive
child support?
Can they receive both Medicaid and child support?
Yes, because child support is not counted as income for Medicaid recipients. So it's just like some other social services, it don't count. So they can receive both Medicaid and child support.
So the mother cooperating with child support just means if they know the father's whereabouts or wherever, the father's response to that, can that hinder the child?
No, they won't hinder the child at all.
No.
And not even the mother. It depends. Once she gives all the information that she knows, and it can't be like, I don't know, where he's at. You have to give more specific information. If they feel like you've given them the correct information, then that mother will be eligible for Medicaid as well as the child. The child is going to be eligible regardless whether they cooperate with child support or not. Child support, them not cooperating will not deny the child.
Okay. Very good. And of course, the father not cooperating can't hurt him, but basically you're saying it's not going to hurt the mother or the child.
Right. If he's not cooperating, then it becomes a whole different thing with the
That's
with
another
support.
department right there.
That's another
Absolutely.
department altogether, right?
Another department.
What Medicaid asks is just one question: are you willing to cooperate with child support? If you say yes, then it goes to child support, and that's a whole nother, like you said, department altogether.
Okay.
Not a Medicaid.
Okay. All right. We have a question in the chat. The individual says, my child is 22 years old. He has a heart condition called hyperplastic left heart syndrome. Was once on Medicaid. And I'm assuming this was prior to becoming 22 years old that they were on Medicaid. So can they reapply?
Yes, they can. They can reapply through us. And what will happen once Medicaid gets that application and see that this child has a disability, they will actually send them an application for them to fill out for disability, Medicaid disability.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Healthy Kids Mississippi would not necessarily process the application, but give information because we deal with parents and children. But because that child is over 19, we would just point them in the right direction. Is that correct?
We can actually take the application. It'll put them
Through
into the
Medicaid.
system. Right. We can take the application.
Just as a courtesy. Okay.
Right. It'll put them in the system. And once they get in the system, then they'll receive an additional application for them to fill out, because there's a whole lot of other information that they have to submit along with that application. It gets very detailed when you're applying for disability through Medicaid. So there's a lot of information that you have to submit. So they will contact you. They will send you a letter and an application for them to fill out. And they just have to send all this information back to the office. And it takes a minute. It's not nothing that's done in 2, 3, or 30 days. Usually takes about anywhere up to 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So disability Medicaid is a much lengthier process than CHIP Medicaid for a child.
Yes, it's more involved.
Okay. So let's say that 22-year-old child had stayed on Medicaid. Let's say they were on it as a child and they hit age 19, they were off of it. Could they conceivably have just stayed on it? Or would the process have changed? I mean, with the pot that they're in as a recipient, would it have changed?
It more than likely, what should have been done, if she had this medical problem all along, they should have put her on disability instead of regular Medicaid and CHIP, so that she would still be on it.
Right.
If this is something that just developed later on, then she has to apply or, reapply for that type of Medicaid. But a lot of times when children apply for those type of Medicaid, the parent is working, and most of the time they may be over income for the child to get regular Medicaid or even CHIP. So they'll go through that process to get them on disability Medicaid.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here's like a part two to that question. Will that child's coverage or that young adult's coverage go back, will be retroactive to the date they first applied and cover medical bills that were required during this waiting period? I guess that's for anybody in that situation who applies for disability.
I know sometimes with that type of Medicaid, they'll go back to even up to a year, I think, 6 months to a year. So it's a possibility that they could go back. It just depends. There's no like, okay, you apply, they're gonna go back. They may not even go back at all. They might just give you the 3 months and not. It just depends on the circumstances whether they go back 6 months or go back a year. Depends on what type of Medicaid that they're eligible for. Is it if it's through Social Security, because it has to get approved through a disability board in Jackson in order for them to be eligible for disability Medicaid. So it all depends on what type. Will they be able to go back? Like if she applies now, will they be able to go back 3 years? It just depends.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about, I know you mentioned a disability board, and I've heard that people have to get attorneys, whether they're a young adult like this 22-year-old, or whether they are an older adult applying for Medicaid disability, not CHIP or Medicaid for children. What is the process with these attorneys that they often that individuals in that application process often get?
Most of the time, when they have to get an attorney, is with them trying to get Social Security disability.
Right.
It's not necessarily with Medicaid. Medicaid disability depends on the approval through Social Security. So when they apply for Medicaid disability through Medicaid, Medicaid has to send the information to Social Security or the disability board, and they decide. And a lot of times, if they need attorneys to go through the red tape or the paperwork to make sure everything is done right and in order for them to get the disability through Social Security. And once they get the disability through Social Security, then they will get a Medicaid card.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So even with that though, Medicaid disability is still is it income based still if it's a disabled person, a disabled child, or a disabled adult? Is income still a factor for Medicaid?
May not be. If they have like 2 different options. One option with them to apply that the parent's income would count. Another option with them to apply that the parent's income would not count. It depends on what the parent, most of the time, they're gonna do without, not to count the parent's income, and just based on the income for the child. Most of the time, child, if they have a disability, they're not working. So they'll use that. But there's a lot of other things like bank accounts. It's real involved. So a lot of other things is involved with that type of thing. And a lot of income that's not counted for regular Medicaid is counted for disability Medicaid.
I see. So, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's real involved.
And that is another statement in the chat referring to that same 22-year-old.
Yes, that he has no insurance. So my recommendation for that family would be that they come to see our other entity that we work with, which is Get Covered Mississippi, which does outreach, enrollment, and education for the marketplace coverage, or ACA, Obamacare, whichever name you'd like to call it. We have federally certified navigators who can assist that family in seeing, can they find a plan that would suit their income needs and their medical needs. The issue with any insurance, whether it is marketplace coverage or maybe an employer-based insurance coverage, if you have someone who's had a long-term illness, the issue that you're faced with is that person oftentimes wants to stick with their physician that they've been seeing previously. So they need to really look carefully through those plans to make sure their physician is in the list of doctors and make sure that all of their medications, I'm sure somebody with this type of condition takes a lot of medications. You want to make sure all their medications are in the formulary so that insurance will pay for it. And that may be a good option for that family while they're trying to figure out how they want to go with this Medicaid situation.
Right.
And if that person, if that young adult has a caregiver, that may have to be off work to look after him or her, that person may not have coverage either because they can't work, but possibly there's someone else in the household who has an income that would be the income that they could use for marketplace coverage. So there is a connection between the two, even though this is talking about Medicaid and CHIP. Once you start talking about whole households of people, sometimes there may be, the parents may have marketplace coverage, the child may have Medicaid and CHIP.
Right.
One parent may have employer-based insurance, the other might have Medicaid, and all the children may have Medicaid or CHIP. So it can be a mix. So love those questions. Thank you for the questions that have been placed in the chat so far. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Voga, Miss Finner, any other comments that you want to share? We know we're going into a season where people's minds on holidays and gift giving and all of that, and that's fine, but insurance is still so important. So any closing thoughts as we kind of roll out of this and start getting more into the holiday spirit? We don't want people to lose sight of the importance of coverage.
Well, the main thing is don't give up. If you apply for Medicaid or CHIP, if you're denied, don't stop there. Don't give up. Let us know. And as you mentioned before, they can apply for ACA, but don't give up.
Wonderful, thank you.
Right, because if you get denied once, you can always reapply for Medicaid and CHIP. There's no limit on how many times you can apply. Because if your income,
is there a waiting period?
There's no waiting period at all. If your income 1 month, especially for people who have those type of incomes that change, it's not the same all the time. Or maybe 1 month you work overtime just for that particular month, but the next month you're not going to work overtime. Then you can reapply. That means your income has changed and you can reapply, and therefore the child may be eligible. And one thing, once the child gets approved, that child is eligible for a year. So there's the income, even if there's an income change, the child is still going to have Medicaid. Now with adults it's different. If you're a parent and you have Medicaid and you got a job or you got a raise on your job, then you have to report that income, and more than likely you're going to be taken off. But a child is guaranteed Medicaid for a year.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And in most cases, you have to make sure, because you have to go through the renewal process. Sometimes it's, you may be able to slide through it, like with the COVID going on. You may not have to renew at a specific time, within that year, but just be prepared and look out for that letter. Again, if you've changed that address, let that Medicaid worker know, because they'll send your renewal letter out. And if you don't respond, if it goes to the old address that you had, that letter is not going, like regular mail, they will forward it to your new address. Medicaid won't do that. The post office won't do that with your Medicaid letter. They'll send it back to the Medicaid office, and probably going to get closed if your case will be closed.
Right. They sent out a list. They sent out a list to each Medicaid office of the return mail. And if your name is on that list, then your case is going to be closed.
Right.
So that's why it's so important when our assisters send that information in their communities, reminding people to renew, to go ahead and do the renewal. Yes. How close to the renewal date does the family have to be to actually process a renewal?
They sent out letters 2 months prior to your date. So if you haven't heard anything, if you haven't received the letter, then you need to call the office to check and see did they send a letter out? Do you have to renew this year? Because I know they're doing still some things with COVID. So it's best to call the office and talk to your worker and ask them, do I need to renew this year? Did you send me a letter out? Let them know I didn't get a letter. Do you have my correct address? Do you have my right phone number? Give them all the information that they need, because they will cut you off.
Right.
They will.
And we won't know,
Right.
if, we won't know. You have to
We're not
check on
privy
that.
to all of that.
Right.
Right. We can't check for you. You have to check yourself. And then a lot of parents don't know until they go to the doctor with their child and they find out the case has been closed. So
Exactly.
Wow. Wow. So is it correct that families can apply up to 6 months out from reapply up to 6 months out from their actual renewal date? Is that about right? Or does it have to be closer?
it has to be closer. And then also it depends on the Medicaid office as well, because you have the smaller office and then you have the larger offices. And with the larger offices, they may want to do it to get it out the way so it don't come up later. But with the smaller offices, they might wait till it gets closer to that renewal date before they actually do the renewal. So it depends on the office. But that's why you need to, if you haven't heard anything, contact your office.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, ladies, I have learned a whole lot from both of you. You guys have a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Hopefully this information will help somebody to either obtain health insurance coverage or keep health insurance coverage that they might be on the cusp of losing for whatever reason. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise, and thank you for having a heart for the people. Again, this has been a production of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, specifically the Healthy Kids Mississippi Initiative. We do have assisters across the state who are ready, willing, and able to help families facilitate their applications. We ensure that those applications go into the Medicaid office as expeditiously as possible. We ask that those who do apply through us, please, stay in touch with us. Sometimes we have to call back and ask a question. We will ask for PII, but we keep all of the information confidential during the phone conversation, and it's not kept in the office. Once we send that information up to the Medicaid office, it is no longer in our hands.
Right.
If it's done electronically. If it is a paper application, the same thing. It goes straight to that office. All we keep is signature pages and consent forms. We do ask that everyone who does an application with us complete a consent form prior to sharing any protected information with us, either on the phone or in person. We are taking COVID precautions. We know that COVID is still there. So we do offer the option of virtual or remote assistance. We do offer curbside assistance for those who may not feel comfortable going into one of our locations. And of course, our locations are open. We still do the physical distancing and the mask wearing and all that, but our locations across the state are open for people to walk in, where someone can sit down and assist you one-on-one. If you need further information about how to get in touch with us, our number is 662-298-3584. And we have a team that is ready, willing, and able to help. Again, we want to acknowledge the folks behind the scenes who make this happen for us. We have our executive director, Dr. Michael Miner. We have our board chair, Ms. Jennifer Garrett. We have Mr. Thomas Robinson, our metric and technology director, and we have several other people who keep this ship afloat. We are here to help. Let's see, Brother Duke or Dr. Miner, are there any questions from Facebook? All right, no questions at this time from Facebook. We thank those of you who participated. We especially thank the stars of this show, Ms. Pat Boga and Ms. Mary Fenner, for their expertise. All right, so our next Ask Mary and Pat show will not be in December. We will omit the month of December for the holiday. Our next one will be Monday, January 27th, 2022. All right, So after the new year is when we will come back with some more good, hot information. All right. To learn more about us, you may go to www.oakhillregionalcdc.com. You may also go to www.healthykidsmississippi.org. All right. I gave you the wrong date.
January 31st.
It is January. No,
It's the last Monday.
the last Monday is January 31st.
Okay.
We won't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, January 31st. I gave you the wrong date. So scratch January 27th. Monday, January 31st, which will be the last Monday in January, Monday after the 5th Sunday, for those of us who keep up with dates based on the Sunday. All right. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. Thank you to all of our Zoom family that is here with us. So many members of our Healthy Kids Mississippi team are here with us on Zoom. So what we're going to do now is sign off of Facebook. For those of you viewing via Facebook, we thank you. Those that are viewing live and those that may come in the future and watch this, thank you so much. We're stopping our live stream now. Everybody on Zoom.